Dr. Zixif's 3 eyes stared at the emergency transmission display with growing alarm. The blue-green alien's tentacles twitched nervously as he read the report from the survey ship Harmonious Current for the 5th time. This could not be right. No species in the known galaxy behaved like this. The incident had started 3 Earth days ago when Captain Jake Martinez of the human vessel Explorer detected unusual energy readings near Europa, one of the ice moons orbiting the gas giant Jupiter. Standard protocol required any new species to maintain distance and contact the Galactic Council before approaching unknown alien technology. Instead, the humans had flown directly toward the Veltar research station. Dr. Zix pulled up the visual recordings from the Veltar station's security feeds. The human ship was primitive by galactic standards, barely capable of faster-than-light travel, yet it moved with surprising confidence toward the massive alien research facility. The Veltar researchers, 7-foot-tall beings covered in dark chitinous armor, had immediately activated their intimidation protocols. The recording showed the Veltar's bioluminescent threat display in full glory. Brilliant flashes of red and orange light pulsed across their bodies, while they emitted ultrasonic fear frequencies that should have sent any intelligent species fleeing in terror. The psychological warfare techniques had been perfected over millions of years and had never failed to work on first-contact situations, but the humans responded in a way that made no sense. Captain Jake Martinez's voice came through the audio feed, calm and friendly. "Hello there, unknown vessel. This is Captain Martinez of the Earthship Explorer. We noticed your distress signals and thought you might need assistance. Are your life support systems functioning properly?" Dr. Zix paused the recording. Distress signals. The humans had interpreted the Veltar's aggressive threat display as a cry for help. This was either brilliant strategic deception or complete misunderstanding of basic interstellar communication. The recording continued. Lieutenant Amy Foster, a young human female with short brown hair, appeared on screen wearing a maintenance uniform. She was speaking to Captain Martinez, but her words were picked up by the Veltar's sensors. "Sir, their atmospheric readings look unstable. The oxygen mix is way off and their temperature controls seem to be failing. If they're carbon-based life forms like us, they're probably really uncomfortable in there." Dr. Zix made a note in his report. The humans had analyzed the Veltar's biology and environmental needs within minutes of contact. Most species required days or weeks to gather such data safely. On screen, the largest Veltar, Station Commander Thrakven, was becoming more agitated. His threat display intensified and he began the traditional dominance posturing that preceded most Veltar attacks. He reared up to his full height, spread his forearms wide, and released a cloud of acidic deterrent pheromones that should have warned off any sane creature. Captain Martinez's response was recorded for galactic history. "Wow, you guys are really big. That's impressive." Amy prepped the shuttle. "Looks like they definitely need help with their air recyclers." Dr. Zix rubbed his forehead with 2 tentacles. The humans were either completely fearless or completely insane. The next part of the recording showed Lieutenant Foster actually boarding the Veltar station. She wore only a basic environmental suit and carried a toolkit that looked primitive compared to standard galactic equipment. The Veltar researchers surrounded her, still maintaining their threatening postures, but she seemed oblivious to the danger. "Hi, everyone," Foster said cheerfully, pulling out a scanning device. "I'm Amy. Don't worry, we'll have your life support fixed in no time. I've worked on atmospheric systems before, though yours is way more advanced than anything we have." On Earth, Commander Thrakven later reported that he had been so confused by the humans' behavior that he forgot to attack. Instead, he found himself explaining the station's environmental controls to the small alien female who nodded enthusiastically and asked intelligent questions about their technology. Within 2 hours, Foster had identified and repaired 3 critical failures in the Veltar's life support system. Problems that the Veltar engineering team had been struggling with for weeks were solved by a human using basic tools and what she called common-sense approaches. The cultural exchange that followed violated every first contact protocol in The Galactic Handbook. The Veltar, grateful for the repairs, invited the humans to share their traditional fermented algae drink as a gesture of respect. The beverage was mildly toxic to most carbon-based life forms and was never offered to aliens. Without extensive biological compatibility testing, Captain Martinez and his crew not only accepted the offer but actually drank the algae mixture. Dr. Zixith watched in horror as the humans consumed what should have been a lethal dose of alien toxins, then declared it not bad and asked station engineer Vraxel for the recipe. "It's got a nice earthy flavor," observed Chief Science Officer Peter Clark, a middle-aged human with graying hair. "Reminds me of green tea back home, just with more texture." "What kind of fermentation process do you use?" The recording showed Vraxel explaining Veltar brewing techniques with growing enthusiasm while the humans took notes and asked detailed questions about algae cultivation. Within hours, the two species were exchanging cultural information like old friends, but what truly alarmed Dr. Zixth was the medical scan data. The humans showed no signs of toxin poisoning from the algae drink. Their immune systems had somehow processed the alien compounds without difficulty. Either humans had incredibly advanced medical technology or their biology was far more resilient than it appeared. The final part of the transmission was a personal message from Commander Thrakven to the Galactic Council. The normally aggressive Veltar leader seemed shaken by his encounter with the humans. "Honored council members," Thrakven began, his usual commanding tone replaced by uncertainty. "I must report that the humans from the planet Earth do not respond to standard contact protocols. They appear to interpret aggressive displays as distress calls and respond with offers of assistance. They show no fear of obvious physical threats and seem capable of surviving biological hazards that should kill them immediately." Thrakven paused in his report, his dark eyes reflecting confusion. "Most disturbing of all, they appear to genuinely want to help other species, even complete strangers who could easily harm them. This behavior pattern suggests either advanced strategic deception or a complete lack of survival instincts. I recommend immediate further study to determine which assessment is correct." Dr. Zixth finished reviewing the transmission and began composing his emergency report to the full Galactic Council. In 3,000 years of first contact protocols, nothing like this had ever been recorded. The humans had turned a potentially dangerous encounter into a friendly cultural exchange, simply by assuming the best intentions from a hostile alien species. The implications were staggering. Either humanity was the most sophisticated civilization in the galaxy, capable of manipulation so subtle that even the Veltar had not detected it, or they were genuinely naive enough to offer help to any species they encountered, regardless of the personal risk. Both possibilities required immediate investigation. Dr. Zixth attached the full recording files to his report and marked it with the highest priority classification. The title read, "Urgent Review Required. Human Species Demonstrates Unknown Contact Behavior. Patterns, Potential Threat Level Unknown." As he sent the transmission to the council chambers, Dr. Zixth could not shake the feeling that the galaxy had just encountered something unprecedented. The humans from Earth were either the most dangerous predators in known space or the most dangerously trusting prey species ever discovered, given the choice between facing a sophisticated enemy or an unpredictably helpful ally. Dr. Zixth was not sure which option frightened him more. Senior researcher Clegven adjusted the invisibility field around the survey vessel Prudent Observer as it entered the outer regions of the Sol system. The insectoid alien's compound eyes focused on the blue and green planet that appeared on the main viewing screen. Earth looked deceptively peaceful from this distance, but the initial sensor readings were already causing alarm among the scientific crew. "Atmospheric composition confirmed," reported Junior Science Officer Plixtal, her forearms working rapidly across multiple control panels. "Oxygen levels at 21%. This is impossible. Any planet with that much free oxygen should have burned up millions of years ago." Clegven made notes on his data tablet with one of his 6 legs while studying the readings. In all his years studying Deathworlds across the galaxy, he had never encountered anything like this. Most hostile planets had one or two dangerous features. Earth appeared to be actively trying to kill everything on its surface through multiple different methods at the same time. "Navigation officer, take us closer but maintain stealth protocols," Clakevan ordered. "We need detailed surface scans before we can understand how any species could survive in this environment." The ship moved silently through space. Its advanced sensors collecting data about the impossible world below. The gravity readings were surprising but not extreme. Earth's gravity was only slightly higher than galactic standard. The real problems were everywhere else. "Sir," called out atmospheric specialist Crixvan, "the planet's weather patterns are completely unstable. Massive storm systems move across the surface constantly. Wind speeds in some areas exceed 100 kilometers per hour. The temperature variations are extreme, ranging from -40 degrees to +50 degrees in different regions." "That cannot be correct," Clakevan replied, checking the readings himself. "No planet with such wild temperature swings could support complex life. The thermal shock alone would kill any organism." The survey team continued their analysis as they moved into a higher orbit around Earth. Each new discovery made the planet seem more impossible than before. The continents moved around on floating plates of rock. Volcanoes erupted regularly, spewing poisonous gases into the atmosphere. The magnetic field fluctuated wildly, allowing deadly radiation from the local star to bombard the surface daily. "Geological scan complete," announced Survey Officer Vextel. "This planet experiences regular mass extinction events. The geological record shows at least 5 major die-offs in the past 500 million years. Major asteroid impacts, supervolcano eruptions, ice ages that last millions of years. Any sensible species would have evacuated long ago." Clakevan studied the data with growing amazement. Earth was not just a death world. It was a planetary disaster that somehow continued to function, despite every possible catastrophe occurring on a regular basis. The fact that intelligent life had evolved here at all defied every principle of xenobiology. "Take us down to observe the surface more closely," he ordered. "Focus on areas where the humans are most active. We need to understand how they survive in this environment." The prudent observer descended through Earth's atmosphere, its stealth systems hiding it from human detection devices. The ship's sensors automatically adjusted to filter out the deadly radiation that constantly bathed the planet's surface. Most galactic species would require heavy, protective gear just to survive on this world for a few minutes. Their first observation point was a human military installation in what the planet's inhabitants called Colorado. The facility was located in a mountainous region where the air was thin and the solar radiation was particularly intense. According to the ship's environmental readings, no intelligent species should be able to function at this altitude without breathing apparatus, yet the humans were not only functioning but appeared to be enjoying themselves. Commander Pete Jackson stood in the middle of a large open area, shouting instructions to a group of younger humans who were running around in the deadly sunlight wearing minimal protective clothing. The aliens watched in horror as the humans deliberately exposed their bare skin to the burning radiation that their own species called sunlight. "They are participating in some form of ritual combat," observed cultural specialist Drixmal, watching through the ship's powerful telescopes. "But they appear to be doing it for enjoyment rather than territorial dominance." The human soldiers were practicing hand-to-hand fighting techniques under the direct supervision of Sergeant Lisa Brown, a female human with short black hair and muscles that suggested enhanced physical conditioning. She demonstrated a combat move that involved grabbing an opponent and throwing them through the air using only her natural body strength. "Record everything," ordered Clakevan. That female just performed a physical feat that would require mechanical assistance for most galactic species. Either these humans have internal augmentation systems or their natural strength is far greater than their body size suggests. The observation team watched for several hours as the humans continued their training exercises. They ran long distances across rough terrain while carrying heavy equipment. They climbed vertical rock faces using only their hands and feet. They jumped out of aircraft at high altitude and used fabric parachutes to control their descent. Every activity the humans performed would be considered extremely dangerous or impossible by galactic safety standards. Yet the humans seemed to consider these activities normal daily routines. "Sir," reported medical scanner operator Tlixvin, "I am detecting no signs of distress from any of the observed humans. Their vital signs indicate they are actually enjoying these dangerous activities. Their brain chemistry shows elevated levels of compounds associated with pleasure and satisfaction." The ship moved to a new observation point above what humans called an ocean. The vast bodies of water that covered most of Earth's surface were another impossibility. The liquid was not pure water, but a corrosive salt solution that should have been toxic to carbon-based life forms, yet humans regularly entered these poisonous oceans voluntarily. Dr. Kelly Wright stood on the deck of a research vessel, preparing to dive into the toxic water while wearing only minimal protective equipment. She was explaining something to her research team about the creatures that lived in Earth's oceans, but the aliens' translation systems were having difficulty processing her words. "She appears to be describing organisms called great white sharks," reported language specialist Vrixtal. "The translation protocol suggests these are large predatory animals with rows of sharp teeth that actively hunt other creatures. But she seems to be planning to enter the water where these predators live." Clakevin checked the translation again. The concept made no sense. No intelligent species would voluntarily enter an environment filled with large, carnivorous animals unless they had superior weapons or protective technology. Dr. Wright entered the water wearing only a thin wetsuit and carrying primitive observation equipment. She swam down into the depths where the ship's sensors detected multiple large life forms moving in her direction. The aliens prepared to witness the human's death, but instead she calmly filmed the approaching creatures and took notes on their behavior. "The predatory animals are not attacking her," observed behavioral analyst Grixaven. "They appear to be curious about her presence but show no aggressive intent. This suggests either the human has some form of chemical deterrent system or these sharks are not actually predators." The ship's biological scanners quickly disproved the second theory. The sharks were indeed apex predators with powerful jaw muscles and razor-sharp teeth. They were perfectly capable of killing the human in seconds. They simply chose not to do so. "Perhaps the sharks recognize the human as a superior predator," suggested Clakevin. "But that would mean humans are more dangerous than creatures specifically evolved for killing in this toxic environment." The observation mission continued for several days as the alien survey team tried to understand how humans survived on their impossible planet. Every new piece of data made Earth seem more like a deliberate trap designed to kill any life form that attempted to inhabit it. The humans not only survived, but seemed to thrive in conditions that would quickly kill most galactic species. They breathed the explosive atmosphere, drank the contaminated water, and exposed themselves to deadly radiation as part of their normal daily activities. "Prepare the final report," ordered Clakevin as the prudent observer prepared to leave Earth's orbit. "Classification: Extreme Deathworld, uninhabitable by any rational species. Recommended quarantine level: Maximum. The beings that inhabit this planet represent either the greatest evolutionary miracle in galactic history or the most dangerous biological weapons ever encountered." As the ship jumped to faster-than-light speed, carrying its impossible data back to the Galactic Council, none of the alien researchers noticed the small, human satellite that had been quietly observing their invisible ship for the past 3 days. Ambassador Hrixtal stepped out of the diplomatic shuttle onto the landing pad at the United Nations headquarters in New York. The tall, slender alien's silver skin gleamed in the afternoon sunlight as he looked around at the primitive but functional human architecture. Behind him, a delegation of 12 representatives from the galaxy's most civilized species adjusted their environmental suits and prepared for what they expected would be a difficult first contact with a primitive warrior culture. The Galactic Council had decided that formal diplomatic Contact was necessary after reviewing the disturbing reports about human behavior. The plan was simple: establish peaceful relations, assess the humans' potential threat level, and guide them toward more civilized behavior patterns through careful cultural exchange. Secretary General Maria Santos waited at the base of the landing ramp with a welcoming committee of human officials. She was a middle-aged woman with graying hair and a warm smile that immediately put the alien visitors on edge. In their experience, leaders of dangerous species rarely smiled during first meetings. "Welcome to Earth," Secretary General Santos said, stepping forward with her hand extended in the traditional human greeting gesture. "We are honored to meet representatives of the Galactic Council. I hope your journey was comfortable." Ambassador Hrixtol studied the extended hand with confusion. His cultural briefings had not mentioned this ritual. After a moment of hesitation, he reached out with one of his forearms and carefully touched the human's hand. The contact was brief but surprisingly warm. "Thank you for your hospitality," Hrixtol replied through his translation device. "We come in peace to establish formal relations between our peoples." "Excellent," Santos replied enthusiastically. "President Johnson is looking forward to meeting you. He's prepared a special welcome celebration on the White House lawn. I hope you like barbecue." The aliens exchanged worried glances. Their translation systems were having difficulty with the word barbecue. The closest match in their databases suggested it involved cooking food with fire, which seemed unnecessarily dangerous for a diplomatic dinner. An hour later, the alien delegation stood on the perfectly manicured grass of the White House lawn, watching in horror as humans deliberately burned animal meat over open flames. President Carl Johnson, a tall man with silver hair and an easy smile, personally tended to the cooking fire while explaining the process to his bewildered guests. "The secret is to get the coals just right," President Johnson said, using a long metal tool to move pieces of meat around over the glowing embers. "Too hot and you burn the outside before the inside cooks. Too cool and it takes forever. Been doing this since I was a kid." Cultural specialist Drixven leaned close to Ambassador Hrixtol and whispered, "Sir, they are using uncontrolled combustion to prepare food. This technique was abandoned by most civilized species millions of years ago due to the obvious safety risks." The ambassador nodded grimly. "The humans were definitely primitive. No advanced species would risk fire accidents just to cook food when perfectly safe molecular reorganization systems existed. Would you like to try some?" President Johnson asked, offering the aliens plates of the fire-cooked meat. "It's beef. From Kansas, best cattle in the world." The alien delegation politely declined, citing dietary restrictions. In truth, they were terrified of eating food that had been exposed to uncontrolled chemical reactions. Who knew what toxic compounds might have formed during the burning process? After the outdoor meal, Dr. Alex Turner, head of NASA's Xenobiology Department, gave the delegation a tour of human scientific achievements. The aliens expected to see primitive but potentially useful technology. Instead, they discovered practices that seemed designed to cause maximum harm to the practitioners. "This is our main medical research facility," Dr. Turner explained as they walked through a hospital corridor. "We've made tremendous advances in surgical techniques, pharmaceutical development, and radiation therapy." Ambassador Hrixtol stopped, walking when he heard the word radiation. "Did you say radiation therapy?" "Oh yes," Dr. Turner replied proudly. "We use controlled doses of ionizing radiation to treat various diseases, particularly cancers. It's quite effective when properly administered." The aliens stared at him in disbelief. These humans deliberately exposed themselves to deadly radiation as a form of medical treatment. This was like trying to cure a broken leg by shooting it with a plasma weapon. "Perhaps you could show us some of your less aggressive medical procedures?" suggested Medical Officer Quintal, hoping to find evidence of more sensible human practices. Dr. Turner led them to an operating room, where they could observe a routine surgical procedure through a viewing window. The alien delegation watched in fascinated horror as human doctors cut open a patient's chest cavity, removed a diseased organ and replaced it with a mechanical device. Heart transplant surgery, Dr. Turner explained. We remove the damaged heart and replace it with either a donated organ from another human or an artificial device. The patient should make a full recovery. The aliens were speechless. The humans were performing procedures that would kill any member of their own species instantly. Yet the human patient's vital signs remained stable throughout the operation. Your medical technology must be incredibly advanced, Ambassador Hrickstall said finally. The biological support systems required for such procedures would be beyond most galactic civilizations? Dr. Turner looked confused. Actually, this is pretty standard stuff. We've been doing heart surgery for decades. The artificial hearts are getting better, but they're still fairly simple mechanical pumps. Simple mechanical pumps. The humans were keeping their people alive with primitive machinery that any competent engineer could build in a workshop. Either human biology was impossibly resilient or their definition of simple was very different from galactic standards. The cultural exchange continued with demonstrations of human recreational activities. The aliens had expected to see primitive art forms and basic entertainment. Instead, they encountered organized violence that humans seemed to enjoy watching. Coach Danny Miller met the delegation at a football stadium, where two teams of armored humans were engaged in ritualized combat. The aliens watched in amazement as the humans ran directly into each other at high speed, colliding with enough force to seriously injure most galactic species. Football is America's favorite sport, Coach Miller explained enthusiastically. These boys have been training all year for this game. Watch this play. Our quarterback is going to throw the ball right into heavy coverage. The play involved one human throwing a leather ball across the field while several much larger humans attempted to tackle him. The collision that followed would have required immediate medical attention for any civilized species. The human players simply got up and prepared for the next play. They do this for entertainment? Asked recreation specialist Vixtel, watching a particularly violent tackle through her viewing device. Entertainment, exercise, competition, character building, Coach Miller replied. Football teaches teamwork, strategy, and how to handle pressure, plus it's a lot of fun to watch. The aliens made careful notes about human recreational violence while trying to understand how beings who deliberately injured each other for fun could be considered a peaceful species. The final stop on the cultural exchange tour was a local elementary school where teacher Susan Clark introduced the delegation to human education methods. The aliens expected to see young humans being taught basic survival skills and social cooperation. Instead, they discovered that human children were routinely exposed to concepts that would traumatize adult members of most galactic species. Today, we're learning about the dinosaurs, Teacher Clark announced to her class of 5-year-old humans. Can anyone tell our visitors what happened to the dinosaurs? A small human child raised her hand enthusiastically. A big meteor hit the Earth and killed them all. There were explosions and fires, and everything died except for some small animals that lived underground. The alien observers exchanged alarmed glances. These young humans were casually discussing planetary extinction events as if they were routine historical facts. Most galactic species carefully shielded their young from knowledge of cosmic disasters until they were emotionally mature enough to handle such information. That's right, Emma, Teacher Clark said proudly. And what else can? 'Cause mass extinctions? Another child answered immediately. Volcanoes, and ice ages, and diseases. And sometimes species just go extinct because they can't adapt fast enough. Ambassador Hrickstall realized with growing horror that human children were being educated about every possible way their world could kill them. This was either excellent preparation for life on a Deathworld or a form of psychological conditioning that would explain human fearlessness in dangerous situations. As the delegation prepared to leave Earth, Ambassador Hrickstall composed his report to the Galactic Council. The humans were definitely not a typical primitive species. They treated deadly activities as entertainment, exposed themselves to lethal medical procedures as routine health care, and educated their children about planetary disasters as basic knowledge, whether this made them incredibly dangerous or incredibly naive remained to be determined. Dr. Quintal materialized in the medical research facility at Johns Hopkins Hospital, his advanced cloaking device keeping him invisible to human detection systems. The Galactic Council's chief medical officer had arrived on Earth with one mission: understand how human biology could possibly function in such an impossible environment. His preliminary scans from orbit had revealed contradictions that defied every principle of xenobiology. Humans appeared to be standard carbon-based life forms with no obvious adaptations for surviving on a Deathworld. Yet somehow they not only survived but thrived in conditions that should have killed them within minutes of birth. Dr. Rachel Green walked through the hospital corridors completely unaware that an alien scientist was following her every movement. The chief of emergency medicine was reviewing patient charts on a portable device while discussing cases with her medical team. The car accident victim in room 3 is stable, Dr. Green reported to her staff. Multiple fractures, internal bleeding, and severe trauma, but he should make a full recovery. The motorcycle accident from yesterday is already asking when he can go home. Dr. Quintal checked his translation device twice to make sure he was understanding correctly. The humans were describing injuries that would be fatal to most galactic species as minor inconveniences. His medical scanners confirmed that the patients had indeed suffered massive physical trauma, yet their vital signs indicated they were healing at an impossible rate. The alien doctor observed several more cases throughout the day, each one more confusing than the last. A human female had survived being struck by a vehicle traveling at high speed. The impact should have shattered every bone in her body, yet she was conscious and complaining about missing a social event called a wedding. Her recovery is actually quite typical, Dr. Green explained to a medical student. Humans are remarkably resilient. With proper treatment, most trauma patients recover completely within a few weeks or months. Dr. Quintal made detailed notes about human healing capabilities. His own species required months of medical intervention to recover from injuries that humans seemed to shrug off as temporary inconveniences. Either human medical technology was far more advanced than it appeared, or human biology operated on principles that contradicted known science. The mystery deepened when paramedic Tony Rivera responded to an emergency call while Dr. Quintal observed from his invisible position. The human emergency response team arrived at the scene of what appeared to be a catastrophic accident. A construction worker had fallen from a significant height and was trapped under heavy machinery. Got a pulse, Tony reported as he worked to stabilize the injured human. Possible spinal injury, definite broken ribs, lots of internal bleeding, but he's conscious and responsive. Dr. Quintal's scanners indicated that the injured human should have died instantly from the combination of trauma and blood loss. Yet, the patient was not only alive but was actually trying to sit up and return to work. "Take it easy, buddy," Tony said, gently restraining the injured worker. "You took a pretty good hit. We need to get you to the hospital for some x-rays." "I'm fine," the construction worker protested. "Just got the wind knocked out of me." "Can't afford to miss work today." The alien doctor stared in amazement. The human had suffered injuries that would require major surgery for any galactic species, yet he was more concerned about missing work than his own survival. This suggested either incredible pain tolerance or a complete lack of survival instincts. At the hospital, Dr. Quintal observed the human medical team as they treated the construction worker. The procedures they used were primitive by galactic standards, yet somehow effective. They inserted tubes into the patient's body, injected foreign chemicals into his bloodstream, and used crude mechanical devices to repair damaged tissue. "He'll be fine," Dr. Green assured the patient's family. "The surgery went well. He should be back to normal activities in about 6 weeks." 6 weeks. Dr. Quintal's people would require years of recovery from similar injuries, assuming they survived at all. Human biology seemed to operate on completely different principles than any other known life form. The alien doctor decided to observe human physical capabilities under normal conditions. He followed athletic trainer Nicole Hayes to an Olympic training facility where humans were preparing for international competition. What he saw there challenged everything he thought he knew about biological limits. The training facility was filled with humans, pushing their bodies to extremes that should have caused immediate system failure. They lifted weights that exceeded their apparent muscle capacity, ran distances that should have exhausted their energy reserves, and performed acrobatic feats that defied gravity. Remember, the human body is capable of incredible things when properly trained. Nicole explained to a group of young athletes, "Your limits are mostly in your mind. The body can adapt to almost any challenge if you give it time and proper conditioning." Dr. Quintal watched a human female lift a metal bar loaded with weight discs that his scanners indicated weighed more than twice her body mass. The feat should have been impossible given the mechanical limitations of human muscle and bone structure, yet she completed the lift without apparent strain. "Good form, Lisa," Nicole called out. "Remember to breathe through the lift. Your body knows what to do." The alien doctor's medical scanners were providing impossible readings. The human's muscle fibers were generating forces that exceeded their theoretical maximum output. Her bone density was insufficient to handle the stress loads, yet her skeleton remained intact. Her cardiovascular system was operating at efficiency levels that contradicted basic biology. The swimming pool area provided even more confusing data. Swimmer Kevin Ross dove into the water and began swimming laps at a pace that required more oxygen than his lung capacity should have provided. Dr. Quintal monitored the human's vital signs as he completed lap after lap without surfacing to breathe. "Time," Nicole called out after what seemed like an impossible duration. 4 minutes, 15 seconds. "Not bad, but we need to get you closer to 4 minutes flat for the Olympics." 4 minutes and 15 seconds. The human had held his breath for longer than his lung capacity should have allowed while simultaneously performing intense physical exercise. Dr. Quintal checked his instruments 3 times to confirm the readings were accurate. Kevin Ross surfaced from the pool and immediately began discussing technique improvements with his coach. He showed no signs of oxygen deprivation or physical exhaustion despite having just performed a feat that should have killed him. "The key is mental conditioning," Kevin explained to a younger swimmer. "Your body can do amazing things if you train your mind to push past the panic response. Humans evolved to survive in extreme conditions. We just have to remember how to access those abilities." Dr. Quintal made extensive notes about human physical capabilities while trying to understand the biological mechanisms involved. Every measurement his instruments provided contradicted established scientific principles about the limits of carbon-based life forms. The final piece of impossible data came from observing human pain tolerance. Dr. Quintal watched a medical procedure where a human patient underwent surgery with only local anesthetic. The patient remained conscious and conversed normally with the surgical team while they performed procedures that would require full sedation for most galactic species. "How are you feeling?" Dr. Green asked the patient during the operation. "Fine. Just a little pressure," the patient replied. "This is nothing compared to when I broke my leg skiing last year." The human was describing major surgery as a minor inconvenience while comparing it favorably to a recreational injury. Dr. Quintal's pain measurement devices indicated that the patient should have been unconscious from sensory overload. Yet, he seemed genuinely comfortable. As Dr. Quintal prepared his report for the Galactic Council, he realized that human biology represented something completely unprecedented in known science. Humans appeared to be standard biological entities operating under impossible conditions through sheer determination and adaptability. His final assessment was disturbing. Humans were not adapted to their Deathworld through evolutionary changes. Instead, they seemed to bend the laws of physics and biology through willpower alone. This suggested that humans were either the result of advanced genetic engineering by an unknown civilization, or they represented an entirely new category of life form that operated outside established scientific principles. Either possibility required immediate further study and extreme caution in future interactions with the human species. Dr. Vrexkan materialized inside the ancient archaeological site on Kepler 442b, his equipment scanning the ruins of a civilization that had vanished millions of years ago. The xenorchaeologist had been investigating extinct species across the galaxy when he discovered something that changed everything the Galactic Council thought they knew about Earth and its impossible inhabitants. The ruins belonged to the Velinari, an advanced species that had explored the galaxy long before the current Galactic Council existed. Their records were mostly destroyed, but Dr. Vrexkan had found fragments of data that mentioned a beautiful garden world in what humans now called the Sol System. The ancient files described Earth as a peaceful paradise inhabited by gentle herbivorous creatures. The planet had stable weather, calm seas, and abundant plant life. It was exactly the kind of world that supported long-term civilization development. But something had gone terribly wrong. Dr. Vrexkan pieced together the Velinari records with growing excitement. According to their observations, early human ancestors had been typical prey animals, living in small groups and avoiding conflict with larger predators. They were intelligent but cautious, building simple shelters and gathering plants for food. Then the disasters began. The first major catastrophe was an ice age that should have killed most life on Earth instead of dying or migrating to warmer areas. The early humans did something unprecedented. They fought back against the planet itself. They created fire, built insulated shelters, and hunted the large predators that had previously hunted them. Each environmental disaster that followed made the humans more dangerous rather than weaker. Volcanic eruptions taught them to work with extreme heat and toxic gases. Floods forced them to build better tools and develop new technologies. Asteroid impacts that caused mass extinctions just made the humans more determined to survive. Back on Earth, Professor Linda Chang stood before a lecture hall full of students at MIT, completely unaware that alien observers were recording her every word. She was explaining human evolutionary history to her evolutionary biology class, unknowingly providing the final pieces of a galactic puzzle. Human evolution is unique among Earth species, Professor Chang explained, pointing to charts showing human development over millions of years. Most animals adapt to their environment through physical changes over thousands of generations. Humans adapted by changing their environment to suit their needs. Dr. Vrexkan watched the lecture through hidden cameras, his translation systems working overtime to process the implications of what the human scientist was describing. Take the ice ages, for example, Professor Chang continued. Other species either migrated to warmer climates or evolved thicker fur. Humans stayed where they were and invented clothing, controlled fire, and built heated shelters. Instead of adapting to the cold, they made the cold irrelevant. The alien archaeologist cross-referenced the human professor's words with the ancient Velinari records. The pattern was becoming clear. Every natural disaster that struck Earth had been met with human defiance rather than submission. The interesting thing about human evolution, Professor Chang told her students, is that we never really adapted to our environment. We forced our environment to adapt to us. We didn't evolve to survive in the ocean, so we built boats. We didn't evolve to fly, so we invented aircraft. We didn't evolve to survive in space, so we built spacecraft. Dr. Vrexkan realized with growing horror that Earth had not produced humans despite being a death world. Earth had become a death world because of humans. Meanwhile, General Frank Miller was conducting military exercises at Fort Braxton while invisible alien observers recorded everything for their final report to the Galactic Council. The human soldiers were practicing something they called survival training in conditions that would kill most galactic species within hours. Remember, General Miller shouted to his troops, humans can survive anywhere if they use their brains. And refuse to give up. Desert, jungle, Arctic conditions, it doesn't matter. We adapt, we overcome, we survive. The soldiers were dropped into a harsh desert environment with minimal equipment and told to survive for a week using only their training and natural resources. Within hours, they had built shelters, located water sources, and established a sustainable camp in terrain that the alien observers' computers classified as uninhabitable by carbon-based life forms. "Sir," one young soldier reported to General Miller, "Team Alpha has established a base camp near the water source. Team Beta is setting up the hunting perimeter. Team Gamma is working on long-term shelter construction." The aliens watched in amazement as the humans not only survived in the hostile environment but actually improved it. They dug wells to access better water, built fire breaks to prevent dangerous brush fires, and established supply caches for future training exercises. Dr. Ashley Parker, a climatologist at the National Weather Service, was giving her monthly briefing about Earth's changing climate patterns. She spoke casually about environmental changes that would cause mass evacuations on any other civilized world. "Global temperatures have risen by an average of 2 degrees over the past century," Dr. Parker reported to the assembled scientists. "Sea levels are rising, weather patterns are becoming more extreme, and we're seeing increased volcanic and seismic activity." The alien observers expected to hear about evacuation plans or requests for interplanetary assistance. Instead, Dr. Parker continued with typical human determination. "The good news is that we're adapting faster than the climate is changing," she said. "New technologies are reducing our environmental impact while our infrastructure improvements are making U.S. more resilient to extreme weather events." The humans were not just surviving their planet's environmental changes. They were actively causing many of those changes while simultaneously developing methods to survive the consequences. It was the most aggressively destructive and adaptive behavior pattern any galactic species had ever documented. The final revelation came when Captain Roy Hayes prepared to launch the first human exploration mission to the galactic capital. The Earth Space Command had built a fleet of ships designed to carry humans to other star systems, but their approach to space travel horrified every alien observer. Human spacecraft were built like flying fortresses, designed to survive impacts, radiation, system failures, and hostile environments. Most galactic species built elegant, efficient ships that required careful maintenance and ideal conditions. Humans built ships that could be crashed into planets and still function. "All systems green for launch," reported Flight Engineer Kate Wilson from the bridge of the exploration ship Endeavour. "Engines at full power, life support at maximum redundancy, emergency supplies loaded for 6-month independent operation." The ship launched without ceremony or celebration, just another example of humans treating interstellar travel as a routine business trip. Captain Hayes reviewed his mission briefings with the same casual attitude that humans brought to every impossible task. Ambassador Julie Clark waited aboard the ship, wearing a t-shirt that read, "I survived Earth," a souvenir from a human tourist shop that perfectly summarized the galactic situation. She was completely unaware that every alien species in the galaxy now viewed that phrase as a declaration of war. Dr. Vrexkin finished compiling his final report as all the pieces of the puzzle fell into place. Earth had not shaped humans through natural selection. Humans had shaped Earth through sheer bloody-minded refusal to be killed by anything the universe could throw at them. Every ice age, asteroid impact, volcanic eruption, and environmental disaster had been met with human innovation and determination. Instead of evolving to suit their environment, humans had forced their environment to become more challenging, then developed the technology and skills to meet each new challenge. The Galactic Council received Dr. Vrexkin's final assessment with shock and disbelief. Earth was not a death world that happened to produce dangerous inhabitants. Earth was a formerly peaceful planet that had been turned into a training ground by its inhabitants' refusal to accept any limitation on their survival. Humans were not adapted to live on a death world. They were the reason their world had become deadly in the first place. They had spent millions of years making their planet more dangerous, then adapting to survive the increased danger, then making it even more dangerous in an endless cycle of challenge and adaptation. The aliens' final classification was unprecedented in galactic history. Earth was the first known adaptive death world, a planet that became more hostile in response to its inhabitants. refusal to be killed. The most terrifying part was that humans were now spreading to other planets, bringing their impossibly dangerous survival instincts to worlds that had previously been considered safe and peaceful. The galaxy would never be the same.